There's some stuff going on right now in Washington as we wrap up the show. Speaking of what we just spoke about with Rich Rodriguez, him just being a pretty intense human being and, trying to really exhaust all words to make sure you are the most motivated you could possibly be.
Right.
Allegedly, Ron Rivera over there at Washington Commanders said some players have come in and talked to him about Bieniemy's intensity and the things that he has said. Now, we have heard a lot of things about Bieniemy from Shady McCoy.
Yeah.
He's really the only person that we've heard speak about Eric Bieniemy. I will say, during quarterback, didn't see a lot of Patrick and Coach Bieniemy in quarterback figuring things out. A lot of the former Chicago coach Nagy motivating, telling him those things in his ear. A lot of Andy Reid coming over and talking. I think Bieniemy was in there like once or twice, maybe.
Maybe.
And the old conversation was Andy Reid's the one calling those plays. That's why Eric Bieniemy is not getting the job. Now, there's some other things that certainly came up in conversation, but the reason why Eric Bieniemy, who's been the offense coordinator for the Chiefs for so long, hasn't been able to get a head coaching job is because the entire NFL knows Andy Reid is the reason why that drink is as tasty as it is.
Yeah.
So when Eric Bieniemy has to go to the Commanders to kind of prove himself seemingly, that's what it feels like. We weren't necessarily thrilled for Bieniemy. We thought it was kind of bullshit that he has to go to another place, leave a winning organization, go to another place and prove himself that he can be a head coach. And then Shady says what he says about him. We all start like wondering, how's this going to go? The internet's saying Ron Rivera's already throwing Eric Bieniemy kind of under a bus. And the players aren't necessarily in love with the way Bieniemy's doing things. If they have success, obviously all of this subsides. But what are your thoughts on early conversation and controversy about new coaches and buildings, more specifically Eric Bieniemy with the Washington Commanders?
Well, there was a tweet from Warren Sharp, I believe, kind of explaining what exactly happened and like how it's kind of it's unique situation, I guess. You bring this new OC, everyone knows Bieniemy, and the head coach, he didn't completely support Bieniemy. He said, why don't you go talk to him? Not like, hey, I'll talk to it, I'll figure it out together. And, I mean, everyone knows, like, Bieniemy is like a hard-driving guy that holds him accountable. Every guy I've ever talked to that's played on a team that he's coaching, they say, like, they love and respect him, and his guys absolutely have to play for him.
I'm reading this quote. The second one, really hilarious. The first one, have players had to adapt to Eric Bieniemy's intensity and have any struggled with it, Coach? Yeah, they have. And one of the biggest things is I had a number of guys come to me and I said, hey, just go talk to him. I said, I understand what he's trying to get across to you. I think as they go and they talk and they listen to him, it's been enlightening for a lot of these guys. I mean, it's a whole different approach. Again, you're getting a kind of player from the players back in the past, especially in light of how things are coming out of college football. So a lot of these young guys, they do struggle with certain things, and a lot of it is from where they've been. I mean, guys coming from certain programs are used to it. Guys coming from other programs aren't as much. So us as a coach, I kind of have to assimilate and get a feel for everybody. Eric has an approach, and it's the way he does things, and it's not going to change because he believes in it. Jack Del Rio, dust up. It has his approach. Having been a head coach, I think Jack has a tendency to try to figure guys out a little bit more as opposed to, hey, this is it. This is the way it's going to be, that type of stuff. Wow. Eric hasn't had that experience yet. So that last two sentences is really what Ron Rivera's feelings were. And then, well, they came to you, it's just if they felt like Eric was riding him too hard, well, they were just a little concerned, he says. That's a hilarious thing for Ron Rivera to say.
He doesn't hold a lot in.
Yeah, but Ron Rivera just being like, yeah, you know the deal. We just got new ownership. That was a nightmare. I beat cancer. That was a nightmare.
It was tough. New name.
Last year had soft-ass coaches. This year.
Now I got to coach you.
Have you ever heard of that, Pac? Have you ever heard that where someone goes to the head coach and says, my position coach is too hard on me?
I've never, ever in my whole career ever heard that. Like, the coaches had to have respect for us. Like, I respect you to coach me, but you ain't going to talk to me out of line because then I'm going to talk to you out of line. But as far as in between the lines, you got a job to do, and everybody is playing for a job. So that never bothered me. And Zim is one of the, like, I chased Zim all the way from the fucking 50-yard line all the way into the locker room one time because he called me a pussy. And I literally
What was that?
banana.
What was that, pal?
But, like, I didn't, once I got it off, it was cool. But, like, the way he talked to me about doing my job, I had no problem with.
Yeah, and he was saying compared to what you normally are, is what he probably had to explain to you.
Right now.
What my expectation is of you versus what you're doing right now. This is how I see it. Now, how he worded it, obviously not the most appeasing for the person on the receiving end of it all. But there's some old school guys that's just how they operate. And they have no empathy. This is our job. Do your job. This is how it goes. But what Ron Rivera said there at the end where it was like, yeah, Jack Del Rio seems like he kind of tries to understand the humans a little bit. I don't think Eric has really.
He doesn't care.
It's his way or the highway.
That was an interesting. Ron was coaching Bieniemy a little bit in that response there. Like, hey, would be nice, if you, because I got a lot of guys coming here, but this is just Commanders football, baby.
It ain't like that.
This is just Commanders football.
Man, it's not like that in NFL locker room. Like, I'm saying, you got something to say back, but like, you can't go to a coach complaining about another coach.
The head coach is an interesting move. You got no fear of getting fired. That would have to be.
They would normally, I see him.
That would have to be somebody real high up, right, on the team.
I don't know. It could be young guys that just feel comfortable expressing themselves. I have kids tell me all the time, like at different practices and stuff, like, man, I'm glad that you feel comfortable enough to tell me that, but you shouldn't be telling your coaches stuff like that. Like just how, I don't know, just weird things that normally you would keep in. Like, oh, I don't know, coach, I'm scared, or I don't want to hit, or I don't want to do this, or I don't want to run a lap. I'm like, I get it. No one does, but you probably don't need to come complain to us every time we have to do anything.
Hey, because you know what we're going to do is we're going to try to look out for you, and we're probably just going to move you out of those positions. And before you have time to even get out of your fear, you're kind of in your own way.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you being authentic and transparent, but also not everybody needs to think that they just have a job all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to go. Sometimes you just have to figure it out and grind through it.
Like going to the head ball coach.
Bold.
I don't like the way this
Hey, that coach you hired, he's really been giving me a tough time.
It's a fucking NFL trainer.
Are you making league minimum is like what, $800,000 now? Okay. All right.
How do you feel about Ron putting it out in the public?
Yeah, that's a whole. He was coaching Eric Bieniemy there,
Yeah.
and obviously some of the players have told some of the media members that they have complained about Bieniemy. So Ron Rivera knew that it was getting out. Yeah. Ron Rivera probably knew that
because he mentioned Jack when he mentions the D coordinator, how he handles things. I think that's definitely shows you. Yeah, he's definitely coaching up Bieniemy.
Yeah, I think because whenever coaches talk to the media, they're talking through the media.
Yeah.
Now, every once in a while,
they better be. They should be.
Yeah, and every once in a while they'll give some bullshit answer, and it's like they're just talking to the media there. But then once they start giving answers, they're talking through the media to the players, to the locker room, to certain guys. You'll hear some guys get targeted in press conferences, and it's like, yeah, that's them trying to say like, hey, you are in the middle of it, right? Like there are eyes on you, or try to motivate. Like, hey, I think this guy has done really well. They're trying to tell the media that they have faith in this person. The media has always been a weapon for coaches to get their message across. I don't remember coaches talking to other coaches through the media though.
No.
You know what I mean? I don't remember that. That's what this feels like to me. But like we just mentioned, Commanders football.
That's Commanders football.
Well, and he fined his defensive coordinator Jack a couple years ago, didn't he?
That was a little dust up.
Yeah,
last year. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a little dust up between Ron and Jack.
They settled it.
Football sports are so dumb.
The Bieniemy thing with the quarterback that you mentioned, I mean, after they won the Super Bowl last year, they all ran to Nagy. It wasn't like, hey, let's go find Bieniemy. Like they actually showed Mahomes do it, but the entire shot is all the quarterbacks, some wide receivers, then you see Mahomes. They run right to Nagy. And that's
he's their QB coach, so they're in there with every day. I guess Bieniemy's the O coordinator, so he probably bops around each room. But yeah, I mean, it is telling, especially when they show the game footage where it's Pat and Nagy or Pat and Andy Reid pretty much all the time.
Fixing. Yeah. Hey, what are we doing? We're seeing this. We're doing this. This is what we got going on. It kind of goes to everything that was being said.
Right.
About why he was. But now he still has a chance to prove himself.
Yeah. We shall see.
He's tough. So what? Boo-hoo. What if you win?
Deal with
and why none of this stuff would have ever got out in Kansas City, because if they would have went to, like Andy Reid or someone, they'd have been like, just fucking ignore him. Don't worry about it.
Oh, no.
He's not doing anything.
He's been out in
just
Kansas
ignore
City
him.
to hit.
What's that?
About him.
Oh, Shady.
Yeah.
Andy, who cares?
Yeah.
The guy, I'm calling a play.
Didn't do anything. Yeah, he's offensive coordinator. Okay.
You think that's what Andy Reid said?
Ignore him. Fucking ignore him.
I'm about sick of the time. We're wasting energy.
Yeah. Makes sense.
I need to drop another play where we're all going in circles.